Rowan had always seen himself as a man destined for greatness. At least, that's what he told everyone who cared to listen. His wife, Elise, once believed it too. In the early years of their marriage, she supported him through every failed business idea, every impulsive decision, every reckless dream he chased. She worked extra hours, cared for their 2 children, Callum and Avery, and managed the home alone while Rowan insisted he was building their future. But as the years passed, it became painfully clear that Rowan wasn't chasing success, he was chasing his own ego. He loved admiration, attention, and the feeling of being the center of every room. And when he met Sienna, wealthy, glamorous, and thrilled by his fake confidence, Rowan began spending less and less time at home. Elise begged him to be present. The children waited every evening, hoping he would walk through the door. But Rowan always had excuses, meetings, opportunities, people who needed him. The truth was simple, he preferred admiration from outsiders to the devotion he already had at home. One evening, Elise found a message on his phone. Sienna had called him, "my real future." Elise's heart shattered, but she kept her pain hidden. She didn't yell, she didn't confront him immediately. She watched, she listened, and she realized the man she married had traded his family for a fantasy. Rowan became colder, sharper. He stopped paying school fees on time. He ignored the leaking roof. When Avery fell sick and they couldn't afford her medication because Rowan had emptied the joint account for a business dinner, Elise was forced to ask her neighbor for help. Still, Rowan didn't care. One night, Elise finally asked him why he had changed. Rowan sighed, as if she were an inconvenience. "I need freedom, Elise. I've sacrificed enough. I have plans. Big plans. You're holding me back. The kids will be fine." Elise stared at him, stunned. "We are your family," she whispered. Rowan just shrugged. Families adapt. That was the moment something in Elise hardened. She realized she had spent years begging for love from a man who saw her as an obstacle. But she would no longer beg. She would plan, quietly, carefully, and when her revenge came, it would not be loud, it would be devastating. Rowan's relationship with Sienna grew, but so did his pride. He bragged constantly about deals he didn't yet have and partnerships that only existed in his imagination. To impress Sienna's wealthy circle, he signed contracts he couldn't fulfill, borrowed money he couldn't repay, and used his family home as collateral, without telling Elise. He assumed she'd never find out. But Elise found the papers tucked behind a drawer when cleaning. She read every line, her hands shaking, not with fear, but with clarity. Rowan wasn't just neglecting them. He was setting them up for ruin. That night she lay awake beside him, listening to him snore peacefully while knowing he had gambled their future away. She didn't cry, she didn't breathe a word. She simply decided it was time to act. Elise had always been observant. Rowan loved to boast, especially when drunk or excited. Over the years he'd mentioned business secrets, accounts, and private emails. Elise began quietly collecting everything: passwords, account numbers, contract details, messages, voice recordings of his bragging, and proof of financial fraud he didn't even realize he had committed. Rowan trusted her so little that he'd forgotten she listened so well. Elise also began saving. Every small extra income she made from side work, she tucked away. Every bill she could pay in advance for the children, she handled secretly. She repaired the leaking roof using her savings. She built a support system: her sister, her neighbor, her friend from work, without Rowan knowing. She was preparing for the moment he thought he had finally won. When Rowan eventually told her he was leaving, he expected tears. Drama, begging, something to boost his ego. Instead, Elise simply nodded and said, "I understand." Rowan blinked, confused. "You're not going to fight for us?" Elise smiled faintly. "You've already chosen." Rowan felt an odd discomfort in his chest, but he quickly brushed it off. Within a week, he moved in with Sienna. He left Elise with 2 children, unpaid bills, and a mountain of hidden debt. He expected her to collapse without him. Instead, Elise got a lawyer. She presented every document she had collected: bank statements, loans, voice recordings of Rowan confessing he forged signatures, business fraud, proof of emotional neglect, and evidence of financial endangerment of the children. The lawyer nearly fell out of his seat. Elise didn't just want child support. She wanted protection. And she got it. The court froze Rowan's accounts while investigating the potential fraud. Sienna, who had believed Rowan was financially stable, discovered the truth within hours. When she confronted him, Rowan tried to lie, but Elise had already sent her a courtesy package containing the same evidence, anonymously, of course. Sienna was furious. Not only had Rowan lied, but her wealthy friends now whispered behind her back for getting involved with a man who made reckless financial decisions. She kicked Rowan out immediately and distanced herself completely. Rowan's world began to crumble. But the worst had not yet come. When the court date arrived, Rowan walked in confidently, expecting to charm his way out like he always had. But Elise wasn't the trembling wife he used to intimidate. She presented every piece of evidence with calm precision. The judge's face grew sterner with each document. When Rowan tried to interrupt, the judge silenced him sharply. In the end, Rowan was ordered to pay substantial child support, back pay of previous neglect, and immediate repayment of illegal loans he had tied to the family home. The house was returned solely to Elise. Rowan was left with nothing but his clothes and the humiliation of being exposed publicly. But Elise was not done. She had one final piece of long-planned revenge. Rowan's business partners, who knew nothing of his lies, received anonymous packages containing evidence of his broken promises, fake credentials, and potential fraud. They cut ties instantly. One even threatened legal action. Rowan lost every deal he had pretended to boast about. Meanwhile, Elise flourished. With the savings she had carefully built, she started a small home-based consultancy, something she had always wanted but Rowan had discouraged. Her business grew fast. Clients admired her intelligence, professionalism, and calm strength. The children, free from Rowan's constant neglect, began to thrive emotionally and academically. Elise rebuilt her life with patience and dignity. Months later, Rowan returned, beaten down by life. His clothes were worn, his pride shattered. He knocked on the door of the home he once abandoned. Elise opened the door slowly, her expression unreadable. Rowan swallowed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Elise, I made mistakes. I lost everything. I need my family back." Behind Elise, Callum and Avery peeked curiously, but Elise gently stepped forward, blocking Rowan's view. "We are not your second option," she said softly but firmly. "You didn't lose everything, Rowan. You threw it away." Rowan felt tears burn his eyes. "Please, I just want to fix things." Elise shook her head. "You fix things by taking responsibility, not by returning when the world turns on you." Rowan reached out to hold her hand, but she pulled back. "The children will see you, on scheduled days, as ordered by the court. But you and we're done." She closed the door gently, not in anger but in finality. Rowan stood outside, the weight of his choices pressing down like a mountain. For the first time, he understood the magnitude of what he had lost: a loyal wife, a warm home, children who once adored him, and the stable life he had taken for granted. Elise leaned against the closed door for a moment, breathing deeply. Not out of sadness, but relief. She had saved her family. She had risen from the ashes Rowan left behind. And she had done it with grace, intelligence, and unstoppable quiet strength. Rowan walked away slowly, realizing too late that true success had always been at home. The admiration he craved from the world had cost him the love he already had. And that was the one regret he would carry for the rest of his life. Elise wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders, and turned toward her children. "Mom, who was that?" Avery asked. Elise smiled gently. "Someone who used to live here," she said, kneeling to hug them both. "But we're moving forward now. Just us." And they did. With peace. With joy. With a future Rowan could never again destroy.